As a pastor, I live by two mottos. My success as a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ isn't measured by how many butts I have sitting in my seats. It's measured by how many feet I have out in the street. So if I can raise up disciples to be like Jesus, to go into the world and affect change in their families, in their communities, in their neighborhoods, then I've done my job as a pastor. The second motto that I live by is that as a church, we're always building faith, we're always giving hope, and we're always serving with love in everything we do. Whether it's Tabitha's Closet or a yard sale or having a booth at Rod Run, we do all of those things with three things in mind: building faith, giving hope, serving with love. With that being said, I'm going to ask our leadership team to go ahead and come up to the stage. They're going to join me, and we're going to go over some past projects for 2019, past events. We're going to go over the budget, financial information. We're going to talk about the future, what Family Worship Center looks like in 2020. And then you'll have an opportunity to ask questions, offer suggestions, voice concerns. It is open to everybody. Don't feel like if you haven't been attending the church that you don't have a voice. You do. We care about your input. But I would say please hold your questions or your comments until question and answers period, because we're already at 10 minutes to noon and I don't want to be here until 4 in the afternoon, okay? So we'll go ahead and we'll get started this afternoon. Well, it's still this morning. The first thing that we want to do is we want to go over the 2019 events that we did have here at Family Worship Center. 2019 was a very crazy year. I ran around not only the church but the community with my hair on fire. I probably went a little bit too far in my ambition of things to do here at the church, and it seemed like every month there was a new event, and every month I was planning the event. I was working with people to coordinate volunteers, structure, and it was insane. And for those of you that were here, that you were part of it, I do want to say thank you very much from the bottom of my heart. Everybody that volunteered, everybody that came to committee meetings, everybody that gave of their time, their talents, and their treasures. But if you look at the list, and it should be up there, if you remember in February and March, we did a thing called Oikos Collective. It was a ministry outreach to artists in our communities. There are two major demographic groups that aren't reached on the peninsula, and those are artists and Hispanic people. 2019, we tried to do some focused things specifically for them. We did the Oikos Collective, where we had artists from our congregation and even outside of our congregation come in to the church, teach a class. Everybody who came got to participate in painting, drawing, making collages. It was a really, really fun time. And I thought it was a success, and I would like to keep doing that if time permits. We only have a limited amount of time, a limited amount of resources, so that hasn't been completely removed from the itinerary. It's just kind of on the back burner because other things became more important. We also did Super Bowl Sunday. We did that again just this last week. We had a bake sale, our first ever bake sale at the pharmacy in Long Beach. Everybody, pretty much everybody in the congregation stepped up and brought something to the bake sale. And we had a very good turnout. We appreciate everybody helping with that. The first big event that we had ever done here at Family Worship Center was our Easter service in Matanza. How many were here for that? A few of us. So our Easter service in Matanza was an outreach opportunity for us to reach out to the Hispanic community of the peninsula. For those of you that don't know, my beautiful bride is 100% Latina, and she carries the same kind of passion and swagger that a Latina does. And so, what a lot of people don't know about us is that as a married couple, our very first ministry context was in a Hispanic church. I think it was me and one other person, and we were the only white guys in the entire church. But the Hispanic community is a beautiful community, beautiful culture. Obviously, I married into it. But we wanted to reach out to the people on the peninsula who are Hispanic that don't have anywhere to go on Sunday because they don't. They don't have a Hispanic church. There's no Spanish-speaking community for them to go worship in. And so we did a pig roast. Jim and Paul and I made a pig pit in the parking lot of the church. And Indus and Kevin came along for that too, and they helped me. We roasted 2 75-pound pigs in our pig pit, and we had a tremendous time. We had tacos and burritos, and it was just a lot of fun. We also did, in 2019, we did the program called Families Helping Families that was phased out, that now became Tabitha's Closet. We had the 2019 Ilwaco High School Baccalaureate service here at the church. We had 125 people. Every chair that we could possibly find in the building was put into the sanctuary. It was crowded, it was hot, it was sweaty, but the graduating class had an amazing time. A beautiful spread put on by Chef Indus and Chef Kevin, and we had a really awesome time. We had the Coastal Care Outreach, the 4th of July parade, prayer invocation. We helped out with Royal Family Kids Camp. We helped out at the Dunes Bible Camp. We did the Summer's Vesper service. We had 3 memorial services in our church. We had a rod run booth, neighborhood watch meetings, fall festival, primetime churches. There were more than one. We had Koinonia Thanksgiving, and then more recently we had Christmas Eve candlelight service. So as you could see, it was a very busy year. We were hopping from one event to the next, and it was fun. It was stressful, but it was amazing all at the same time. So our 2019 projects falling on the same line, because we just didn't do events. Of course, we have to keep up with the maintenance of the facility. And so we did outside landscaping. For those of you that hadn't been at the church before, we used to have all kinds of shrubbery running along the side of the building. We completely took that out. We laid down weed blocker and beauty bark, and we made the church look more presentable, have a little bit more curb appeal. Because we have had people come to the church that said in the past, we didn't even know that this was a church. We thought it was an abandoned building because of how ran down the facilities were. And so we've worked really hard to bring that back up, bring some curb appeal. We still have a lot more things to do, but we're getting better and better every year. Of course, we built the barbecue pit. We remodeled and decorated the fellowship hall. We put in a wooden wall feature, repainted the stage, repainted the walls, put up some decorations. Jim and Paul had to repaint the exterior of the building because the paint was flaking on the west and north side of the building. We replaced the women's bathroom floor, installed a new kitchen faucet, installed a new toilet in women's restroom. We installed a new HVAC system in the sanctuary. We painted the first kids' classroom, and we also installed a TV with a articulating wall mount on it. We updated our security system because our security system wasn't working, and we had to bring the security company in to reconnect some doors and windows and make sure everything was working properly. And then we replaced, you wouldn't be able to tell this today, but we did replace the sanctuary microphones. We're still having some issues with that. Let me see if my microphone's working. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I think it was the batteries. Anyway. But what we want to do now is we put together a very special slideshow presentation. For those of you that don't know me or haven't come to church before, I'm a slideshow nerd, and I do everything in slideshows. whether that be Sunday morning services or special events. So it's going to be, I think it's about 10 minutes, but it's pictures, it's video, there's music. Listen to the words of the songs. They're very impactful, they're very powerful. And then we'll come back and we'll move on with the slideshow presentation.
Anytime a heart turns from darkness to light, anytime temptation comes and someone stands to fight, anytime somebody lives to serve and not be served, I know God is on the move, hallelujah. God is on the move in many mighty ways. God is on the move, hallelujah. God is on the move today. Anytime in weakness someone falls upon their knees, or dares to speak the truth that sets men free. Anytime the choice is made to stand upon the word, I know God is on the move, hallelujah. God is on the move in many mighty ways. God is on the move, hallelujah. God is on the move today. I see a generation standing on the truth. In each and every nation, God is on the move. Anytime the gospel stirs a searching soul, and someone says, send me, here I go. I know. God is on the move, hallelujah. God is on the move in many mighty ways. God is on the move, hallelujah. God is on the move today. God is on the move, hallelujah. God is on the move in many mighty ways. God is on the move, hallelujah. God is on the move today. I see a generation standing on the truth. In each and every nation, God is on the move. This world can be cold and bitter. Feels like we're in the dead of winter, waiting on something better. But am I really gonna hide forever? Over and over again, I hear your voice in my head. Let your light shine for all to see. And start a fire in my soul, fan the flame and make it grow. So there's no doubt or denying. Let it burn so brightly that
times on this journey I get lost in my mistakes. What looks to me like weakness is a canvas for your strength. And my story isn't over, my story's just begun. And failure won't define me, 'cause that's what my Father does. Yeah, failure won't define me, 'cause that's what my Father does. Lay your burdens down. Here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. You're in the Father's house. Arrival's not the end game, the journey's where you are. You never wanted perfect, you just wanted my heart. And the story isn't over if the story isn't good. And failure's never final when the Father's in the room. And failure's never final when the Father's in the room. Lay your burdens down. Here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. You're in the Father's house. Yeah. In the Father's house. Yeah. Prodigals come home, the helpless find hope. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Prison doors swing wide, the dead come to life. Love is on the move when the Father's in the room. Miracles take place, the cynical find faith, and love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Jericho walls are breaking, strongholds now are shaking. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Love is breaking through when the Father's in the room. Lay your burdens down. Here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door, 'cause it ain't welcome anymore. You're in the Father's house. Yeah. Lay your burdens down. Here in the Father's house. Check your shame at the door. Welcome anymore. You're in the Father's house.
So as you can see from that slideshow, we do like to eat here. I was going through the pictures and I was like, there's a lot of pictures of food. And then it brought to mind a Bible verse, and it was up there. And it says, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teachings and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe with the many wonderful signs that were performed. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. And there's something about meeting together as a family and eating. It's intimate, it's enjoyable. All of us like food. The fastest way to a man's heart is through his stomach. And so we eat and we break bread and we pray here at Family Worship Center. And if you're missing that in your family, we invite you to enjoy ours, because we do that often. So that is an open standing invitation, not only to you, but to your family, to your friends, neighbors, colleagues. I guarantee you, you will always leave here physically fed and spiritually fed. That's a guarantee. Okay, we're going to do a 2019 attendance review. This isn't any way to be braggadocious or anything like that. It's just to tell you what the numbers were so that we have a perspective of where we've been, where we're going, and where we need to be. So 2019 average weekly attendance, we had 31 adults. That was the average adult attendance. And then the average kid attendance was 6. Yeah, that's a good point. For those of you that don't know, Brenda and I came to this church almost 4 years ago. It'll be 4 years in April. When Brenda and I first got here, there were 0 kids, not one. When my family and I moved to the Long Beach Peninsula, our kids were the only kids that attended church here. And it took a very long time, a lot of intention, a lot of focus to get kids to come to our church. Because what we would run into is a family would come in, they would have kids, and they would say, there's no other kids, so we're going to go. And so it took us a very long time to get kids, just families, basically, to come to our church. And so seeing 6 kids is a gigantic milestone leap. And then there were weeks where we would have 20 kids. And it's just a testament to when you focus your efforts on winning families, kids will come to your church. And kids are the life of the church. If there are no kids, the church disappears. We need kids in our church. Oh, one more thing that I forgot to do, and I apologize for this. I did want to introduce everybody that's up here really quick. I forgot to do that. I'm sorry. We have Frances Turner. She's the care pastor. Jim Schaefer is the chairman of the finance committee, and he does security and 5,000 other things in our church. Elisa Schaefer is the volunteer coordinator. She's the one who helps get the volunteers to do all the events, all the projects, and everything like that. You all know who I am. Pastor Brenda is my co-pastor, my wife. She does spiritual care for me. She takes care of our home, takes care of our kids, and she even works 2 other jobs on the side. So we have Tina Van Winkle. She's the secretary-treasurer of the church. She's the one that pays all the bills, counts all the tithes and offerings, makes sure that we're staying on track financially. She works with Jim Schaefer to make sure that budgeting is working, finance is working. She also does a lot of the visitor follow-up, sending out postcards, letters, all that stuff, and all the administrative stuff that I need done in the office, she does. And then we have her husband, Paul Van Winkle. He does the facility maintenance. He takes care of all the broken fixtures. He helps me when we did the, I should say I helped him when we did the fellowship hall remodel. And yeah, I can't do anything that we do at the church without these guys, and this is our team. And if you have any questions at any time, you could ask any one of these people and they could answer your questions. Okay, getting back to the attendance review. If you go to the next slide, Rachel, you can see that our attendance started out gangbusters in 2019. We were averaging over 45 people a week for the entire month of January, and then it was kind of a trickle down. And 2020 has started off pretty slow too, but we're hoping to get that number back up. Our most attended month in 2019 obviously was January. We had an average weekly attendance in January of 46 people. The least attended month in 2019 was August. We had an average weekly attendance of 30 people. Usually August is when people take their last vacations of the year before school starts, before life starts back up again. And so August is typically a slow month for every church all across the United States. And we had that same experience. Our best single Sunday attendance was April 21st, which happened to be Easter. And on that day, we had 74 people in our congregation, in our service. So that was pretty amazing. And when I was looking over the historical records, since 1985, that was the largest church service on a Sunday morning in the history of Family Worship Center. So that was pretty amazing. Our worst single Sunday attendance was August 25th, and we had 22 people in attendance. So from 74 to 22 is a pretty significant drop-off. One of them was a special event, and then the other one was a week before school starts. So that's to be expected. So right now I'm going to turn it over to Jim Schaefer. He's going to go over all the financial information with you and go over budgets, income, expenditures.
I guess it's working. Okay. I'm not going to bore you too awful much. I just want to talk about basically what our budget is. We essentially met our budget 6 months out of 12 last year. And when I say meet our budget, I don't mean some lofty goal. I mean paying electricity, water, 501c3s such as us. We don't pay property tax. We have someone that thinks he needs wages, and he does. To say that we're extravagant in anything is crazy. I mean, you just look around and there's many things we need to do, but courtesy of Mr. MacGyver over there, he hates it when I do that. We get it done through people's generosity with their time and their ties, and it's obviously we're in this together. I used to work for the government, and knowing where the money came from and how we got our budgets put together, I understood the funding mechanisms, and then being part of a church or being part of churches over the years, it's really a pretty basic funding source. It's us. It's just us. And so if we want to keep the lights on, if we want a full-time pastor, we go ahead and obey the Lord and be faithful tithers. So there's many reasons why the budget fluctuates. Our bills tend not to. We're paying a little more for electricity right now than we will in July. That makes sense. Everybody does that. You see that at home. Water is pretty consistent. Wages are consistent. They're generally 50 to 60% of any budget, and so and the pastor, he loves pie charts too. Just saying, to go along with the slideshow. It doesn't tell you everything, but sitting down with me, I'm always happy to talk to anybody, anytime about where we're at and our financial health. But we can go to the next one, Rachel.
Rachel, go ahead to the next one.
Just more ways to show how up and down the budget is. I mean, when you look at the income source at tithing, people on this peninsula, we tend to go south for the winter, literally, and so attendance is up and down. I mean, if everybody that I know was here today, there'd be no empty chairs. And so, but that's just the name of the game. That's life. I mean, Lisa and I aren't always here, so it's just an up and down situation. If you look at the next slide. It gives you we look at history, and just as reference points, you're thinking, well, boy, 2019 was a good year. It wasn't that much more than than 2017, but more than 2018. And then on the expense slide, the next slide, it's, you see that they stay pretty consistent. I mean, it's just sometimes if you do a remodel or if you have a capital project, I think last summer or summer before last, did some painting, and then we fixed some of the painting last summer. But by and large, it stays the same. We try to anticipate needs. We try to budget and put money aside, knowing what we have coming up. And so that's how we can keep costs pretty consistent. The next slide, don't spend a lot of time trying to figure that out. It's just basically what we use for planning. We list on the far left what our costs are. The items in red are things we ultimately will eliminate or have eliminated, and just as cost savings. But the column under total is kind of an important one. It's, we typically run, $5,000 to $5,200 a month for expenses, and then we just pray and let God take care of the income, because that's really all we can do, all I can do, and all the pastor can do. We can't dip into people's pockets, and nor should we. It's you give from the heart. A friend of mine that was a new Christian, his wife found the Lord before he did, and she'd always smile and tease and say Ed turned from a tearful giver to a cheerful giver as he got to know the Lord, and that's, we want to be cheerful givers. So, and then if you look, okay, we have some cuts and then expenses, they'll typically, I'm sorry, the income, it's just anywhere from that. I mean, that's just for a month, but part of a month, and so it's up and down. So we can go to the next one, Rachel. Another pie chart on the next slide, Rachel, and it's just more of the same. So what I would do is I would encourage you to get a copy of this if you're interested, this slide presentation, the slide deck, and take a few minutes just to look. We are ever so open-minded and welcoming of ideas, thoughts, criticisms, whatever you have, because by no stretch of the imagination do we have all the answers. We know what we're doing, and we can always do better. So, and then the next slide is even more fun than, this is what I use, and Pastor and I use every month. This is basically a check register, and this is how we make sure that the church stays on track, that the church doesn't owe money, that the church pays its bills on time, and there's about an Excel spreadsheet full of bills every month, and we just, we get towards the third Sunday, and we start praying a little harder, and by the fourth Sunday we generally tend to make our budget. So, and this is just a sample of last month's register, and that was obviously before it was finished. But and I don't know if you know, but this is probably a good time to tell you, when it comes to pastoral salaries, it also includes a parsonage. That is industry standard for a church. So you provide housing for your pastor, and that's what a parsonage is. And we, if you try to rent on this peninsula or buy, you know that it's not abundant, and so we were able to. We had one parsonage that ultimately it just, its time had passed, and they had to move out, and so we went from $1,000 a month down to $850. But we also went from a full-size house down to about 800 square feet for a family of four, temporary for about a year. And so then we found another parsonage for them, and that's, so if you look at the numbers, and I encourage you to do so, you'll see, well, we're paying $1,250 for a parsonage now. We're up from $850. Well, now we were up from $1,000 really, and it the $1,000 parsonage was a great deal, but that season passed, and the owner of the property, it didn't work anymore. So, but this actually, and I'm happy to share any time these registers, it gives you a really good, realistic view of what our monthly challenges are and our monthly blessings are. Okay, so if you have any questions, I'm here all day. So afterwards, if I can answer anything, I'd be happy to. And I'm going to turn this back over to the pastor man, or maybe my wife. I don't know.
Take it for a
Oh
second.
yeah.
There's just one other piece of information that I'll add to what Jim said that we normally include in the slideshows, but we didn't this year. But it's an important piece of information for everybody to understand. So of that budget, $78,000 that came in as income, about 6 people made up 72% of that $78,000. And so if you're looking at our official roster of membership, we have about 44 people who consider this their church. 6 of those 44 people gave 72% of the income. So you see it's very staggered and top-heavy. That puts our church at a very precarious situation, because if any one of those 6 people decide to move to Florida to enjoy better weather, we take a pretty significant cut in income. That's not to shame anybody, that's not to belittle anybody, but that's just to tell you the reality of the situation, that we are very top-heavy. 6 people give the overwhelming majority of the income. And so for some of us, we need to say, can I do more? Am I doing enough? Am I doing too much? Because I don't want 6 people to feel obligated that they have to give an extraordinary amount of money, and then everybody else say, well, 6 people are doing it, I don't have to. That's not the way that the church was designed. Even if you look at the Old Testament church, or the New Testament church, I'm sorry, it wasn't designed that way. Everybody was sharing the burden. Everybody was sharing their possessions, their times, talents, treasures. And so that's just something to put into your mind. 6 people make up 72% of the budget. What happens if 3 of those people decide that Arizona looks much nicer to them? We're in a very, very bad spot as a church. So keep that in mind. Keep it in prayer. Ask the Lord if there's anything that you can do. If He says yes, do it. If He says you're doing enough, keep what you're doing. If He says you're doing too much, feel free to cut back. But it's all a matter of personal introspection and looking into our own hearts. Okay, we'll look at some 2020 upcoming events. One of those events, and I made an announcement, was it 2 Sundays ago? We're doing Tabitha's Closet. For those of you that don't know, Tabitha was a first-century Christian who went around her community helping the poor, and so her Greek name is actually Dorcas, but that kind of sounds weird on flyers. Dorcas Closet. So her Latin name is Tabitha, and so we do Tabitha's Closet to take care of the underprivileged people in our community. Christy Bassarab has been appointed the director of that ministry. She's going to be working very closely with Judy Prater and Lotta Carney to make sure that that event is successful. And that's every 3rd Saturday of the month. That's consistent. It will happen every month, and it'll happen as long as we can do it, and as long as it's sustainable, and as long as it's beneficial for people in our community. So we have our Tabitha's Closets every 3rd Sunday, and then we have monthly Connect events as every 4th Saturday, and that's men's breakfast and women's coffee. The men's breakfast, we meet at the Cove Restaurant at 8 o'clock, and the women meet at Adelaide's at 10. And now my wife has built up a pretty tremendous relationship with, is it Colleen? Adelaide's, and now every time she goes in there, they already know what coffee she wants the minute she walks in the door. And so it's a great time not only for us to network together as a community, but to network outside of ourselves and reach people in the community. One other thing that we'll do right now is I'll hand this over to Pastor Francis, and she's going to talk about a new ministry opportunity that we're launching here at our church. It's called Empty Bowls, and so Pastor Francis, if you want to talk a little bit about that.
Yes, Empty Bowls. Some of you may have attended this event in the past. It was held at the Peninsula Church Center. For the last 11 or 12 years it's been there. The Peninsula Church Center can no longer host that. Their Presbyterian Women's Group, who was the sponsor of it, has broken up and no longer exists. So some of the people that church contacted some of the people like me who were participating in the event and said, anybody, any ideas? So I volunteered our church. We met with Pastor Don, with the director from the Presbyterian Church who had been doing it last year, and we decided it would be a good fit for our community here. This event has been going on for many years. It's a grassroots international event that is community-based. So each community does their own event. What it is to remind the world that there are people who go every day without food, who are hungry, who have empty bowls. It started out on the peninsula by an art teacher who went into the schools and taught the children to make bowls. I see some of you nodding your heads, so you may have participated in this. She was not able to continue that last year, so Martha Donaldson stepped up, and we modified it a little bit because neither Martha or I are art teachers. Instead of going into the schools and asking the children to make bowls, and we had a lot of bowls left over from previous years, so we will have some of those this year as well. We went out to the artisan community, and they contributed all kinds of craft and arts and craft projects, and we had a silent auction along with the Empty Bowls event, which is a soup event where we feed people soup. Many of the restaurants and the bakeries on the peninsula contribute soup and bread, and it's just soup and bread. And I went last year, and I was so full. I didn't have to eat for days. But everybody, all the restaurants in the community are aware of this, and they're kind of always on board with donating soup for it. So it's very little cost to us except for manpower. We need people to help us with this event. We need people to go down to the restaurant.
So that's another tremendous opportunity for our church to make an impact on our peninsula. For most people that have been attending this church for a while, you know the story of the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. We make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and it impacts eternity. It literally does. So this is another opportunity for us to make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Metaphorically, we're not going to literally make them. But any little thing, any tiny thing that we could do to make differences for people's lives, we're going to do it. That's why we do Tabitha's Closet. That's why we're going to do Empty Bowls. And that's one more opportunity. This year, Easter Sunday is on April the 12th. We're going to scale back Easter Sunday pretty significantly. We're not going to do a 24-hour pig roast because I just can't do that and then preach in the morning. Last year, for those of you that remember, I lost my voice. I was up here trying to preach with no voice, standing outside in the smoke all day. This year, we're going to do a pancake breakfast. There will be more than pancake, but We're going to call it a pancake breakfast before service on Easter Sunday. On July 4th, we're going to be having a fundraiser in the parking lot of our church. For those of you that attend the Ocean Park 4th of July parade will know that our parking lot is completely full of people, and we open it up for free to people to park here. This year we're going to sell hot dogs or something to the people who are hungry coming back from the parade, and that'll just give us an opportunity to make a focused fundraising opportunity towards either Tabitha's Closet or Empty Bowls or any other of the ministry opportunities that we want to do. September 12th and 13th this year is Rod Run. We're hoping to be able to work with Keith again in the committee at Rod Run to have a booth there. It was a tremendous success for our church. We had a lot of fun. All the kids going down the 2-story inflatable slide was so much fun. We're hoping to do that again this year. And then obviously October 31st, every year for the past 4 years, we've done Fall Fest. It's just something that we do. It's our largest ministry outreach of the year. November 25th, we're going to do Koinonia Thanksgiving again. How many people came to Koinonia Thanksgiving? Wasn't that a lot of fun?
Yeah.
We had 4 turkeys, 2 of them were smoked, 2 of them were oven roasted, and it was so much fun.
Great.
And then December 24th, 2020, we'll have candlelight service again. Right now I'm going to turn it over to Lisa Schaefer. She's going to talk about some of the events and projects, well, for the your portion of it.
You just said my whole list.
Okay, you can scratch that then. But for all of these upcoming events, Lisa Schaefer is going to be your point person in terms of if you want to volunteer for anything. She's going to be the one that will, either you will be calling her or she will be calling you to make sure that we're having the people that we need to have here to make sure that the events are successful. It's awesome to have 5,000 grand ideas of things to do, but if you have nobody to do them, then it's kind of a letdown. And when I do anything in ministry or even in business, I always say you always under-promise and over-deliver, because then you blow people's expectations. So if you say we're going to have an amazing fall festival and we have 2 games and a bucket of candy, I mean, I could do that at my house, right?
I think what he meant was if you don't call Lisa Schaefer, she'll be calling you. And I've watched her put on events most of our married existence, and what Francis was describing sounds kind of daunting, a lot of work, but really, when we pitch in together, it goes fast. It's a lot of fun setting up. That's the work. But being with the folks and ministering to them and just eating along with them is really a blessing. And then the takedown and everything, it just goes super fast. We've kind of got that down pat, and everybody has a part. Everybody knows what they're doing, and it's really not a pain. It's fun. So just don't let Francis scare you. It's really okay. She is scary.
Right now I'm going to turn it over to Paul Van Winkle, and he's going to talk about any upcoming projects, maintenance, things that we're going to be doing, and then, yeah.
First of all, hello?
Tap it.
See how easy it is to fix? I'm going to start out with a disclaimer of MacGyver. I don't just use baling wire and duct tape. We want safety. I'll talk to you later. Safety is number 1, so we do know the codes for electrical, plumbing, and so on. Safety is first, and then aesthetics second. Like we've done some electrical stuff that you don't even see, and plumbing that you don't even see, but it makes it work. One of the projects that Don didn't point out was we've redone the Tabitha's Closet. We built a nice kind of a storage area and walled it off. And And a lot of thought went into that, and we wanted to show the community that we really care about this, that we're serious about this, and it's not just something slapdash. So if you haven't seen it, I invite you to look at it and see that it was done, what I feel was done right. What else? Sorry. Oh, yeah. And another thing I want to point out is all these big projects, the heat, the wall, the painting, it's all been done at no cost. Everything's been donated. Time's been volunteered. The lighting, we're repurposing some of the old fixtures. Everything is gray and white because we have about 40 gallons of gray and white paint. So if people don't like gray and white, they can buy a different color and bring it in and paint it themselves. I think that's about it. Yeah, that's about all I wanted to talk about. Another thing is we're always looking for volunteers and donations, and I think in April we're going to set up a spring cleaning to clean the inside and outside of the church. We want it to be clean and fresh and welcoming to people that drive by and come in, and that's another one of our goals. And if you see something that's a safety issue, please point it out because I can't see everything, and that's about it.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, so that church workday is going to be very important for us. We're going to need to make sure that the landscaping is nice, the inside is clean, the outside is clean, just like Paul mentioned, because there's nothing worse than driving by a building and thinking, that's a church? That looks like somebody's ran down beach shack, and we don't want that. Not only does that signify that we don't care to the community, it also signifies that we're not good stewards of what God has given us. And that's the most important thing, is being good stewards of what God's given us. With that being said, did you have anything you'd like to say?
Kids has been going great, and we've been getting some more kids that are older. So Irene has been helping quite a bit with kids off and on, and I really appreciate that. And so if we could have a couple more volunteers, that would be great. We're starting to get in the phase where we can split up into classrooms, so that would be really neat if we could do that and have a younger youth and maybe older youth. So yeah, it's been really great back there, and thank you guys for those of you that bring snacks and stuff for the kids too. Especially those of you that, and I never say that you should do this, but I'm thankful when people think of our family too and bring gluten-free snacks. We've had, Irene has been bringing in gluten-free snacks for the kids when she has them, and so she's been making sure that everybody can eat. And I mean, not that we always bring stuff for our kids, so you never have to worry about them. It's just really nice when, you know, someone goes out of their way to make sure there's enough for everybody and that it's gluten-free. So that's been great. We've been doing really good. Everything in kids has been great. I don't know. I've had a few people with different ideas for some of our youth, because we have some youth that weren't here today as well, but which is great. And like we say it over and over again, ideas are great, but we need help bringing it together, because Pastor Don and I can't do everything ourselves, or us up here, we can't do everything. And I know Pastor Don sometimes wants me to preach, and it's like I can't, my hands are tied sometimes because I'm doing so much. But so anyway, but it's been going really good too. So.
And just to piggyback off that, I do want to encourage people to really think and consider about helping with a Wednesday night Awana program. We've been wanting to do that forever, and we haven't been able to just because we don't have the volunteers to do it, because Awana is broken up by age group, and so we need multiple volunteers to do that. Is that my phone? That's embarrassing. I know. It's time to go. Anyway, I'll wrap up with this statement. Our church can only be as successful as our children's program is. That's the reality of every church in the United States of America. Because you might be able to have a church for 1 generation, 2 generations, but if you don't reach kids, your church will eventually die. It's just a fact of reality. So if we don't have kids coming to our church will die, and our church was on the brink of that 4 years ago. For those of you that don't know, we're part of the Northwest Ministry Network of the Assemblies of God, and our church was this close to being closed. And Brenda and I accepted the appointment of coming to this church because we hate seeing churches close. Not only is it bad for the people who attend the church, it's bad for the community that the church is involved in, because the church does so many great things for the community. So our church is only as good as our kids program, and our kids program is 100% better than what it was when we first got here, but there's always room for improvement. So that's just, and I don't say that, that's another thing that I don't say to guilt you or to make you feel bad. It's just a reality of the situation. Be thinking about it, be praying about it, and we trust God for all the details. Okay? With that being said, does anybody have any questions, comments, or concerns? And we'll wrap up with this portion of the program. Some of you have a few every business meeting.
And again, if you're more comfortable taking offline and talking one-on-one, just say something. I'm here pretty much every other day, and so I can meet you here, I give you the phone number, the same way. So definitely give you the phone number.
My cards are in the back with my phone number on it, please take one.
Can I also just quickly say, if you have any finance questions or money questions, please, 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 Tina and Jim, because many times you guys come to us and I have no clue, or you come to me and you tell me, hey, sorry, I couldn't tie this, and I'm like, don't tell me anything, I don't know. So we try to stay out of that as much as we can, and we don't, so especially me, like, I have no clue what you give or don't give. Please, 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 don't come telling me, don't feel bad when you talk to me, because I don't know. So there you go. Talk to Jim and talk to Lisa, please. Tina, I'm sorry.
Normally, when you hear about, bad things happening to churches and crimes in churches as far as, not extortion, but, people stealing, it's when there's no checks and balances. It's like any other organization, if right hand and left hand aren't talking. So Pastor Don, in his infinite wisdom, has set it up to where he doesn't write checks. If he sees something we need for the church, he doesn't buy it. We take care of it. We discuss it, and if we have, just like the home budget, if there's money, we'll get it. If not, then we'll figure out how to work around it. But yeah, they don't have any hands in the finances, and that way, if there's questions, they're going to act like they don't know, because
We don't know.
And it's, I joke with them sometimes. I say, it's your job to save souls. I'll save some money, and we make a good team. So